The war had begun, but no one had expected it to start this way. In a distant galaxy, where peace reigned under the influence of the Galactic Council, a small human colony lived quietly on a fertile planet. Its people were humble, living simple lives, but they had been under the watchful eyes of the Galactic Council for decades. The Council governed countless worlds, and Earth was just one of many planets under their rule. The people of Earth had always been proud of their achievements, their culture, and their potential. Yet, little did they know that their peace was about to be shattered forever. At the heart of the colony lived a young girl named Eve. Eve was no ordinary child. She was brilliant, a genius who showed promise in fields of science and technology that could revolutionize the galaxy. Her father, a respected scientist, had always been proud of her abilities, knowing she would one day change the world. However, in the eyes of the Galactic Council, Eve was a threat. Not because of what she had done, but because of what she might do. The Council feared her potential to surpass their own scientific advancements. In a move that shocked everyone, they decided that Eve must be silenced before she could unlock the secrets they so desperately wished to keep hidden. One fateful day, a cold and cruel decision was made. The Galactic Council, using their vast power and influence, executed Eve in a brutal and senseless manner. The Council had declared that her death was necessary, a result of an unjust law they had imposed to keep their control over all civilizations. The reasoning behind Eve's death was meaningless to the people of Earth. It was nothing more than an excuse to eliminate a future threat. When the news reached Earth, it spread like wildfire. Eve's death was not just a personal tragedy for her family, it was an attack on every human being. Her father, once a quiet scientist, was suddenly thrust into the role of a revolutionary. He became the face of the resistance, his grief and anger fueling a fire that could not be quenched. The entire human race was shaken. The colony, which had once been peaceful and complacent, was now united in rage. No one could understand why the Galactic Council had chosen Eve to suffer such a fate. The people of Earth rallied together, their collective grief and anger turning into a thirst for justice. Every human, from the youngest child to the oldest elder, could feel the weight of Eve's death in their bones. But what they did not know was that Eve's death was more than just an attack on one family. It was the spark that would ignite a fire that had been waiting to be lit for centuries. For Earth, the tragic loss of Eve was the beginning of a war that no one could have imagined. In the shadows of this tragedy, Earth's leadership, hidden away from the public eye, began to prepare for a response. The Galactic Council had made a fatal mistake by underestimating Earth's potential. What the Council didn't know was that Earth had a secret, one that had been kept for generations, a power so ancient and vast that it could change the course of the entire galaxy. Long before the Galactic Council had risen to power, Earth had possessed technology far beyond the reach of even the most advanced alien civilizations. This technology had been lost to history, hidden away, and buried beneath layers of time. But now, as Eve's death echoed across the planet, that ancient fleet was awakening. The first signs were subtle at first, strange energy fluctuations and mysterious transmissions, signals that no one could explain. But those who were listening carefully knew what it meant. The fleet was stirring. Earth's long-forgotten power was about to be unleashed. For the Galactic Council, this was the beginning of their worst nightmare. They had provoked a sleeping giant, and now they would have to face the consequences. The Council had no idea what was coming. They had never considered the possibility that Earth, a supposedly insignificant planet, held the key to a power that could rival their own. As the mysterious transmissions grew stronger, the tension on Earth reached its peak. Was this the end for the Galactic Council? Or was this the beginning of something far more dangerous for the humans? As Earth's leaders gathered in secret, preparing their ancient fleet, the question on everyone's mind was, what will happen when the Council realizes that they have made a fatal mistake? Would Earth's fleet rise from the ashes of history and bring about the Council's downfall, or would the Council's overwhelming power be too much for Earth to handle? The clock was ticking, and time was running out. The tension built slowly but steadily, and with each passing moment, it became clearer that a storm was coming, one that would engulf the galaxy and change everything forever. But no one on Earth knew how it would play out. The future was uncertain, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Would Earth's ancient fleet be enough to stand against the might of the Galactic Council? Or would humanity's thirst for justice be their ultimate downfall? As the first signs of the fleet's awakening became undeniable, the people of Earth could only wait and wonder. What would the Galactic Council do when they realized the full extent of the threat they had unleashed? Would they fight to maintain their grip on power, or would they crumble before the power of a people who had been wronged? In the quiet of their secret war rooms, Earth's leaders made their final preparations. The fleet would rise. The battle would begin, and no one could predict the outcome. The death of Eve had sparked a fire across Earth, one that could never be extinguished. The pain of losing such a young, brilliant life resonated through every human heart. But from that pain, something much more dangerous was rising. Earth was about to show the Galactic Council just how powerful they truly were. Hidden away in the depths of Earth's most secure military bases, a secret had been buried for centuries. A secret that, when revealed, would shift the balance of power in the galaxy. The human race had something the Council had never expected. An ancient fleet of warships, more advanced than anything the Council had in its arsenal. These ships, forgotten by time, had been hidden during the Galactic Wars, when Earth's technology had outpaced the rest of the galaxy. The fleet had been buried beneath layers of secrecy, waiting for the day when humanity would need it most. Now, that day had come. Earth's leadership, knowing the Galactic Council would stop at nothing to maintain their iron grip on the galaxy, decided that it was time to activate the fleet. The decision was not made lightly. They knew the risks, and they knew that once the fleet moved, there would be no going back. But the loss of Eve and the Council's brutal actions against humanity had left them with no choice. It was time to strike back, to awaken the ancient fleet that had been dormant for far too long. The fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The warships were massive, their hulls designed to withstand even the most powerful attacks. They were equipped with cloaking technology, making them invisible to even the most advanced scanning systems. Their eye-controlled defense systems were unmatched, capable of responding to threats faster than any human mind could comprehend. And most impressive of all, the ships had self-repair capabilities, allowing them to stay operational in the face of overwhelming odds. But the fleet was not the only weapon in Earth's arsenal. The leadership of Earth knew that this mission would require a leader who could inspire hope and lead from the front. That leader was Commander Marcus Steele, the most battle-hardened officer Earth had. His reputation was known throughout the galaxy, his tactical brilliance earning him the respect of even the most seasoned commanders. But beneath his tough exterior, Marcus was grieving. The death of Eve had left a deep scar on him. He had lost people before, but losing a child, someone with so much potential, was a pain he had never experienced. However, despite the grief, Marcus was determined to lead Earth to victory. He knew that this war was more than just about revenge. It was about showing the Galactic Council that Earth would no longer be a footnote in their empire. It was about showing the universe that humanity could no longer be ignored. With Marcus at the helm, the fleet was ready to move. The ships, once hidden away and forgotten by history, were brought to life. Their engines hummed with power as the AI systems came online, and the once silent and empty ships began to stir. For the first time in centuries, the fleet began its journey out of the shadows, leaving Earth's atmosphere and heading toward the edges of known space, where the Galactic Council's borders lay. The fleet moved silently, cloaked from detection. It was a ghost, an invisible force that could not be seen or tracked. For the Galactic Council, it was as if the fleet didn't exist. They had no idea that humanity had such power at its disposal, and they certainly didn't expect it to be used against them. The leaders of the Council, engrossed in their own affairs, would soon realize that they had made a grave mistake by underestimating Earth. As the fleet moved further into space, the tension on Earth was palpable. The entire planet held its breath, waiting for the first strike. The leadership knew that the Galactic Council would eventually retaliate, but Earth had no choice but to act. Every second that passed brought them closer to their destiny, a destiny that would either see them victorious or lead to their destruction. And still, the fleet remained undetected. The commanders of Earth's fleet knew that the element of surprise would be their greatest weapon. The fleet's cloaking technology was so advanced that it rendered the ships nearly invisible. There were no signals, no transmissions, no trace of their presence. The Galactic Council's sensors were unable to detect the fleet as it silently moved toward their borders, ready to strike when the time was right. As they drew closer, the anticipation grew. Commander Steele knew that the Council had no idea what was coming for them. The ships were nearing the border of Galactic Council space, and the time for action was fast approaching. The fleet was just a few jumps away from the heart of the Council's territory. Once they crossed into the Council's space, all bets were off. The war would begin. The people of Earth waited anxiously, their eyes glued to the stars. They didn't know exactly when the fleet would strike, but they knew that the moment was coming. In every corner of the world, people whispered about the fleet, about the hidden power that was about to be unleashed. They had heard the stories, the legends of Earth's ancient warships, but no one had ever believed they would truly come to life. Now, as the fleet neared the Council's territory, the people could feel the weight of history shifting. This was the moment they had all been waiting for, the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. But as the fleet neared its destination, the Council was still unaware. They continued their daily operations, confident in their own superiority. They believed their advanced technology made them invincible, that no force in the galaxy could challenge their rule. They didn't even consider the possibility that Earth, a planet they had long regarded as insignificant, would have anything to challenge them. They had no idea that their empire was about to face a threat unlike anything they had ever encountered. In the darkness of space, Earth's fleet continued its silent march, its warships invisible to the eyes of the Council. The fleet's cloaking technology made it impossible for the Council to detect, and the tension continued to build with every passing moment. The question remained, would the Galactic Council even realize what was coming? Would they be prepared when the first strike landed? The fleet's movement was smooth, and its progress was swift. As the ships crossed into the outskirts of the Council's space, a sense of urgency filled the air. Commander Steele, now standing on the bridge of his flagship, watched the vast expanse of stars unfold before him. The time was drawing near, and he knew that soon the fleet would engage. There was no turning back now. The tension was thick, the silence deafening. Earth's fleet had activated. The ships were moving undetected, and the Galactic Council had no idea what awaited them. The first strike was coming. The time for secrecy had passed. The war was about to begin. The Galactic Council, the supreme authority in the galaxy, was at the height of its arrogance. For centuries, they had ruled over countless planets and species, their power unchallenged, their technology unmatched. They had seen Earth as a primitive world, a speck in the vastness of space, far from being a threat to their empire. They mocked humanity, assuming that no matter what resistance Earth might try to put up, it would be easily crushed. To them, the idea that a human civilization could challenge their might was laughable. When news of Eve's tragic death reached them, they saw it as just another fleeting incident, something that would not disrupt the balance of their power. They believed that humanity, in its grief, would be no different from any other species, weak and easily subdued. The Galactic Council had no idea that Eve's death would be the spark that ignited an inferno they could not contain. The Council's leaders sat in their grand chambers, secure in their belief that they were invincible. The ruling elite exchanged whispers of disdain for Earth, underestimating the potential of a species that had survived on a harsh, violent planet for millennia. They dismissed the human race as nothing more than a nuisance, something that would eventually fade into irrelevance in the face of the Council's might. As the reconnaissance warship entered the outskirts of the Council's home system, the atmosphere on board shifted. The crew began to notice strange readings, small anomalies that suggested something was amiss. But by the time they realized the gravity of the situation, it would be too late. Earth's fleet was already in position, ready to strike when the time was right. The silence of space was broken only by the faint hum of the engines aboard Earth's ships. The fleet, still cloaked and unseen, was waiting. The stage was set for a battle that would change the galaxy forever. The Galactic Council had underestimated Earth, and now they would pay the price. The first strike was coming, and it would be a devastating blow to the Council's pride and power. The silence of space was shattered in an instant as Earth's ancient fleet, once thought lost to time, struck with a force that sent shockwaves across the galaxy. The Galactic Council, who had spent so long underestimating humanity, found themselves caught completely off guard. They had been so certain of their superiority, believing that Earth was nothing more than a primitive planet, unable to fight back against their advanced empire. But now, that very belief would be their undoing. In a flash, Earth's fleet engaged the Council's reconnaissance warship, eliminating it within minutes. The Council's most advanced vessel, a ship that had been thought invincible, was torn apart by the overwhelming power of Earth's ancient technology. The sheer force of the attack left the Council's forces reeling, their communications scrambling as they tried to process what was happening. But it was already too late. The battle had begun. Commander Marcus Steele stood at the helm of his flagship, his face a mask of calm determination. He had waited for this moment for so long, the pain of losing Eve still fresh in his heart. But now it was time to act. His voice was steady as he gave the order: initiate orbital bombardment. From the heart of the fleet, massive weapons systems fired, launching a barrage of missiles and lasers towards the Galactic Council's military outposts. The bright trails of the missiles lit up the dark void of space, striking their targets with unrelenting force. Explosions rippled through the Council stations, turning once thriving outposts into twisted heaps of debris. The sky above the Council's strongholds was filled with fire and destruction, a brilliant contrast against the cold void of space. The Galactic Council's soldiers, caught off guard by the sudden onslaught, scrambled to defend themselves, but the devastation was already too widespread. The first wave of attacks hit hard. The Council's ships, once thought to be the pinnacle of technological achievement, were quickly being overwhelmed by Earth's superior firepower. The Council's defenses faltered as Earth's ancient weapons tore through their shields like paper, sending shockwaves of fear throughout the Council's ranks. They had never seen such power, never dreamed that a supposedly primitive species could possess such strength. But the battle was just beginning. Earth's fleet, while powerful, was not invincible. The Council's warships, though crippled, still fought back fiercely. The next phase of the attack brought the fight into close quarters, and Earth's elite soldiers were ready for the challenge. They had been trained for years, prepared for this very moment. As the battle raged on, humans and Council forces clashed in space, their ships circling each other in a deadly dance. The soldiers aboard Earth's ships, clad in advanced combat armor, rushed into the chaos with unyielding resolve. Armed with cutting-edge weapons and enhanced with AI-driven tactics, they stormed the Council's remaining defenses. The sight of humans fighting with such ferocity, with such determination, was nothing short of inspiring. Each soldier moved with precision, their advanced armor shielding them from the brutal fire of the Council's forces. But the real challenge came when Earth's soldiers had to board the enemy vessels, engaging in brutal hand-to-hand combat with the Council's robotic defenders. The robotic soldiers of the Council were cold, calculated, and efficient, but they were no match for the sheer willpower of Earth's warriors. In the tight, claustrophobic corridors of the enemy ships, The two forces collided in a series of brutal close-quarters combat scenes. The metallic clang of blades and the hum of energy weapons filled the air as humans and machines fought for control of the ship. Explosions rocked the ships, the walls shaking with the force of the blasts. The humans fought with a determination that the robotic defenders could not understand. Every strike, every movement was driven by the memories of those lost, by the blood that had brought them to this moment. But as they continued in their arrogance, Earth's leadership was silently preparing a devastating response. The Council, blind to the storm that was brewing on Earth, thought they could control everything. They had no idea that Earth's ancient fleet, buried for centuries, was about to reemerge, ready to unleash its power. To ensure that humanity wouldn't be able to launch an unprovoked attack, the Galactic Council decided to send a reconnaissance mission to Earth. They sent one of their most advanced warships, a massive vessel equipped with state-of-the-art weaponry and scanning technology. The Council believed it was a simple mission, a chance to show Earth that they were still in control, to remind the humans of their place in the galaxy. They had no idea that this seemingly insignificant decision would be their undoing. The warship, a towering behemoth, slipped silently through the stars, its engines burning bright as it made its way to Earth's system. It was a show of force, a statement from the Council that no one, not even the humans, could defy their authority. The Council expected a quick and easy mission. They believed Earth's defenses were primitive, and they were confident that their advanced warship would make short work of any threat. However, what the Council failed to realize was that Earth was no longer the defenseless, isolated planet it once was. Deep in the shadows of space, Earth's ancient fleet was awakening, its massive warships slowly coming online. These ships, long hidden away from the Council's prying eyes, were equipped with technology far beyond anything the Galactic Council had ever seen. As the fleet began to move, it was cloaked, invisible to the naked eye. The Council's reconnaissance mission would have no chance of detecting it. The fleet moved silently, its massive ships drifting through space like phantoms, cloaked and unseen. The cloaking technology was so advanced that it distorted the stars around them, making the ships invisible to the sensors of the Council's warship. Earth's fleet was now positioned just outside the Council's home system, ready to strike when the time was right. The silent ships of Earth moved with eerie precision, their every movement calculated and deliberate. From the perspective of the reconnaissance warship, it was as if the humans had no defenses at all. The ship's sensors scanned the area, but they picked up nothing. No ships, no defenses, just the cold emptiness of space. The crew on board the warship scoffed at the lack of any resistance. They didn't understand why Earth had been so quiet. They had no idea that right under their noses, a storm was gathering. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Commander Marcus Steele stood at the helm of his flagship, watching as the ancient fleet made its final approach. His heart raced with anticipation, but there was no turning back now. The moment had come to show the Galactic Council that Earth would no longer be their doormat. Steele's mind was sharp, his eyes focused. He could feel the weight of Eve's death on his shoulders, but it was no longer just about her. It was about Earth's survival. It was about the future. The fleet remained hidden, cloaked in the vastness of space, its ships as silent as the stars themselves. There were no transmissions, no communication. The ships were mere shadows, drifting toward the Council's space like ghosts. The tension in the air was thick. Earth's leadership knew that the Council was about to realize their mistake, but they had to wait for the perfect moment. The fleet would strike when the reconnaissance ship was close enough to the Council's home system, where it could deal the most damage. The element of surprise was their greatest weapon. As the reconnaissance warship continued its journey to Earth, the tension was building. The crew aboard the ship, still unaware of the impending danger, continued with their mission. They had no idea that the moment they crossed into the outer edge of the Council's space, they would be face to face with a threat far beyond their comprehension. The fleet's sleek, high-tech design made it almost impossible to detect. The ships glided through the blackness of space, their cloaking fields warping the very fabric of light around them. The visuals were almost cinematic in their beauty, the ships shimmering like ghosts, their outlines barely visible against the backdrop of the stars. The once untouchable Galactic Council was now being stalked by a force it could neither see nor comprehend. The Council's arrogance was about to cost them dearly. They had dismissed Earth as weak, underestimating its potential. They had no idea that humanity was hiding a weapon so powerful that it could obliterate their entire empire in a single stroke. The final moments of their ignorance were drawing to a close. As the reconnaissance warship entered the outskirts of the Council's home system, the atmosphere on board shifted. The crew began to notice strange readings, small anomalies that suggested something was amiss. But by the time they realized the gravity of the situation, it would be too late. Earth's fleet was already in position, ready to strike when the time was right. The silence of space was broken only by the faint hum of the engines aboard Earth's ships. The fleet, still cloaked and unseen, was waiting. The stage was set for a battle that would change the galaxy forever. The Galactic Council had underestimated Earth, and now they would pay the price. The first strike was coming, and it would be a devastating blow to the Council's pride and power. The silence of space was shattered in an instant as Earth's ancient fleet, once thought lost to time, struck with a force that sent shockwaves across the galaxy. The Galactic Council, who had spent so long underestimating humanity, found themselves caught completely off guard. They had been so certain of their superiority, believing that Earth was nothing more than a primitive planet, unable to fight back against their advanced empire. But now, that very belief would be their undoing. In a flash, Earth's fleet engaged the Council's reconnaissance warship, eliminating it within minutes. The Council's most advanced vessel, a ship that had been thought invincible, was torn apart by the overwhelming power of Earth's ancient technology. The sheer force of the attack left the Council's forces reeling, their communications scrambling as they tried to process what was happening. But it was already too late. The battle had begun. Commander Marcus Steele stood at the helm of his flagship, his face a mask of calm determination. He had waited for this moment for so long, the pain of losing Eve still fresh in his heart. But now it was time to act. His voice was steady as he gave the order: initiate orbital bombardment. From the heart of the fleet, massive weapons systems fired, launching a barrage of missiles and lasers towards the Galactic Council's military outposts. The bright trails of the missiles lit up the dark void of space, striking their targets with unrelenting force. Explosions rippled through the Council's stations, turning once thriving outposts into twisted heaps of debris. The sky above the Council's strongholds was filled with fire and destruction, a brilliant contrast against the cold void of space. The Galactic Council's soldiers, caught off guard by the sudden onslaught, scrambled to defend themselves, but the devastation was already too widespread. The first wave of attacks hit hard. The Council's ships, once thought to be the pinnacle of technological achievement, were quickly being overwhelmed by Earth's superior firepower. The Council's defenses faltered as Earth's ancient weapons tore through their shields like paper, sending shockwaves of fear throughout the Council's ranks. They had never seen such power, never dreamed that a supposedly primitive species could possess such strength. But the battle was just beginning. Earth's fleet, while powerful, was not invincible. The Council's warships, though crippled, still fought back fiercely. The next phase of the attack brought the fight into close quarters, and Earth's elite soldiers were ready for the challenge. They had been trained for years, prepared for this very moment. As the battle raged on, humans and Council forces clashed in space, their ships circling each other in a deadly dance. The soldiers aboard Earth's ships, clad in advanced combat armor, rushed into the chaos with unyielding resolve. Armed with cutting-edge weapons and enhanced with AI-driven tactics, they stormed the Council's remaining defenses. The sight of humans fighting with such ferocity, with such determination, was nothing short of inspiring. Each soldier moved with precision, their advanced armor shielding them from the brutal fire of the Council's forces. But the real challenge came when Earth's soldiers had to board the enemy vessels, engaging in brutal hand-to-hand combat with the Council's robotic defenders. The robotic soldiers of the Council were cold, calculated, and efficient, but they were no match for the sheer willpower of Earth's warriors. In the tight, claustrophobic corridors of the enemy ships, the two forces collided in a series of brutal close-quarters combat scenes. The metallic clang of blades and the hum of energy weapons filled the air as humans and machines fought for control of the ship. Explosions rocked the ships, the walls shaking with the force of the blasts. The humans fought with a determination that the robotic defenders could not understand. Every strike, every movement was driven by the memories of those lost, by the blood that had brought them to this moment. The battle scenes were intense and visceral, with the camera focusing on the small, critical moments that defined the fight. The sound of lasers firing, the shriek of metal as explosions ripped through the hull, and the sight of soldiers engaging in brutal hand-to-hand combat created a cinematic experience that left the audience on the edge of their seats. Amid the chaos, one moment stood out, one act of bravery that would resonate with everyone. Bonner, a soldier who had fought alongside Marcus Steele for years, saw the incoming missile heading straight for the heart of the fleet. Without hesitation, he sprinted toward the missile's impact zone, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew there was no time to warn anyone. The missile, if it hit, would obliterate a significant portion of the fleet, devastating their chances of victory. In those final moments, Bonner made the ultimate sacrifice. As the missile streaked toward its target, Bonner dove in front of it, using his own body to shield the fleet. The explosion tore through the air, but Bonner's act of courage had saved hundreds of lives. His sacrifice was felt throughout the fleet, and the loss of a beloved soldier hit everyone hard. Even Marcus Steele, who had spent years in the cold, harsh world of warfare, felt the weight of the loss. "Bonner, you will not be forgotten," Marcus whispered, his voice thick with emotion. The crew aboard the flagship fell silent as they felt the weight of the sacrifice. The tension in the air grew, and the determination to win burned even brighter. The humans were fighting for something greater than themselves. They were fighting for their world, for their families, and for the memory of those who had already given their lives. As the battle raged on, Earth's fleet pressed forward with renewed vigor. The strike had been a resounding success, but there was no time to rest. The Council, now reeling from the devastating assault, was scrambling to retaliate, but Earth's fleet was already one step ahead. With Bonner's sacrifice fueling their resolve, the soldiers of Earth pushed forward, determined to finish what they had started. The visuals of the battle were nothing short of breathtaking. Lasers cut through the darkness of space, lighting up the skies above the Council's military stations. Explosions rippled outward in a fiery cascade, sending debris flying in every direction. The fleet's ships, once cloaked and silent, now moved with an unrelenting fury. Every blast, every maneuver was a testament to the power of the ancient fleet and the unyielding spirit of humanity. The battle was far from over, but it was clear that Earth's warriors were no longer the underdogs. They had shown the Galactic Council that humanity would not be pushed around any longer. The first strike had been successful, but there was more to come. The Council had made a grave mistake in underestimating humanity, and now they would have to face the full force of Earth's vengeance. With each passing moment, Earth's fleet pressed forward, each soldier knowing that the price of victory was high, but that the sacrifice of those like Bonner would not be in vain. The battle for the future of the galaxy had begun, and there was no turning back. The journey that began with a single loss now hurtled towards its inevitable conclusion. Earth's fleet, having already made its mark with the surprise strike against the Galactic Council's outposts, was now venturing deep into enemy territory. The once hidden fleet, a collection of ships from an ancient time, was now fully awake, its technology far beyond what the Galactic Council could have ever anticipated. Yet they still pressed forward, intent on making an example of humanity. Marcus Steele, the seasoned commander of Earth's fleet, stood at the helm of the flagship, staring out at the stars. The sight of the Council's homeworld, a symbol of their empire's power, grew ever closer. This was the place where Eve's life had been unjustly taken, where the Council's arrogance had led to the first spark of war, and now it would be the place of humanity's reckoning. The weight of the coming battle was heavy on Marcus' shoulders, but he knew that victory was not just for Earth's survival. It was for Eve, for the countless lives that had been lost, for every soldier who had sacrificed everything to bring them here. He clenched his fists, his resolve hardening. "This is for you, Eve," he muttered under his breath. "We finish this now." The Galactic Council, always so confident in their technological superiority, had been slow to react. But now, as Earth's fleet neared their homeworld, they were forced to make their move. The Council called upon their most powerful warships, ships that dwarfed anything Earth had, ships brimming with AI-controlled fleets, and an army of robotic enforcers. These were their ultimate weapons, their final defense. The Council's arrogance had led them to believe that nothing could threaten them, but now they would see how wrong they were. As Earth's fleet entered the heart of Council territory, the battle began. The void of space erupted into chaos as missiles screamed through the darkness. AI-driven drones engaging in deadly dogfights with Earth's ships. The battle quickly escalated, with lasers lighting up the vast expanse, each flash a harbinger of destruction. The sounds of weapons discharging, the hum of energy shields, and the screams of battle could almost be heard in the silence of space. The air was thick with the tension of impending victory or doom. Humanity's fleet had the advantage of surprise, but the odds were still overwhelmingly stacked against them. The Galactic Council's warships, immense and imposing, unleashed their full power. The fleet's AI systems took control, coordinating the defense and launching counterattacks that seemed unstoppable. Their robotic enforcers, programmed for efficiency, fought on the ground with cold precision, their metal limbs moving with terrifying speed. Earth's soldiers, facing the full might of the Council's forces, were far outnumbered, but they fought with everything they had. They fought not just for their lives, but for their homes, for their families, and for the memory of those who had fallen. The battle on the ground was as brutal as the one in space. Earth's elite soldiers, wearing advanced combat suits and armed with high-tech weaponry, faced off against the Council's robotic soldiers. The robots were relentless, their metal fists crushing anything in their path. But humanity's soldiers were driven by something the robots could never understand, a fierce will to survive, to fight back against the tyranny of the Council. In one particularly intense battle, a group of Earth soldiers fought tooth and nail against the robotic enforcers. The camera zoomed in on their faces, showing the raw emotion of the moment, the sweat on their brows, the determination in their eyes. These were not mere machines. These were humans fighting for something greater than themselves. The battle was chaotic, a blur of lasers and explosions. The soldiers used every ounce of their skill, each movement calculated, each shot carefully placed. The sound of energy blasts filled the air, the clash of metal reverberating through the ground as Earth's forces clashed with the Council's mechanical army. Above, in the space above the Council's homeworld, the fight was no less intense. Earth's fleet used its advanced cloaking technology to outmaneuver the Council's forces, becoming invisible at critical moments, only to reappear and strike at the heart of the enemy's defense. The Council's warships, massive and seemingly invulnerable, found themselves unable to hit what they couldn't see. Earth's fleet, using its strategy, speed, and advanced technology, was able to keep the Council's forces off balance. Every move was carefully planned, each attack timed perfectly. Despite the advantages of Earth's ancient fleet, the Galactic Council's forces were overwhelming. The warships they had sent were equipped with state-of-the-art weapons and defense systems, far more advanced than anything Earth had. Yet it was the underdog spirit of humanity that began to tip the scales. The soldiers of Earth fought not just with their technology, but with a passion and willpower that no machine or advanced weapon could replicate. Marcus Steele, at the heart of the battle, gave his orders with precision. "Keep moving. Outmaneuver them," he shouted over the comms. His voice was steady, but those who knew him could hear the undercurrent of emotion. This was more than just a battle. This was personal. Despite being vastly outmatched, Earth's fleet found a way to gain the upper hand. The Council's robotic defenders may have been efficient, but they lacked the human drive and ingenuity that Earth's soldiers possessed. The robotic enforcers, though powerful, were no match for the strategies and tactics that Marcus Steele and his crew used to outsmart them at every turn. Earth's fleet, small but mighty, was fighting as a unified force, each soldier and ship working in perfect harmony. In one pivotal moment, Earth's fleet launched a daring strike against the heart of the Council's flagship. The ship, once thought invulnerable, was now at the mercy of Earth's ancient technology. The missiles launched with deadly accuracy, striking at the weak points in the Council's defenses. The ship shook violently as the first wave of impacts tore through its hull. It wasn't long before the flagship began to lose its power, its shields failing under the relentless barrage. On the ground, Earth's soldiers continued to push forward. The sight of robotic enforcers falling, one by one, to the might of human soldiers was a testament to humanity's strength. The underdog story was becoming a reality. Humanity, once thought weak and helpless, was proving itself to be a formidable force. As the final confrontation reached its peak, Marcus Steele and his crew knew that the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. They had come so far, endured so much, and now, with the Council's flagship on the verge of collapse, victory was within their grasp. The underdog forces of Earth had fought tooth and nail, and now they were about to claim their prize. The final battle was an epic clash of wills, of technology, and of strategy. The Galactic Council, once the dominant force in the galaxy, now found itself on the brink of defeat. The sight of Earth's ancient fleet, battered but unbroken, standing against the might of the Council's forces, was a moment that would be etched in the annals of history forever. Victory was within reach, and humanity would never be the same again. The battle was over. The once seemingly unstoppable Galactic Council had been defeated, but for Marcus Steele, the fight was far from finished. He had one final mission, one final confrontation that would bring him face to face with the person who had ordered Eve's death. The same person who, in their arrogance, had underestimated humanity and caused so much suffering. The stakes couldn't be higher. This was not just a war for survival anymore. It was personal. Marcus stood aboard the bridge of Earth's flagship, staring out into the void of space. The Galactic Council's flagship was now only a few hundred miles away, its looming presence a reminder of everything that had led to this moment. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest. It wasn't the excitement of war or the thrill of victory that surged through him now. It was the need for justice. "Eve," he whispered, his voice barely audible as the weight of everything he had lost settled in. "This is for you." The door behind him opened, and the crew of the flagship looked at Marcus with respect. But none of them said anything. They all knew what this was. It was the final step in a journey that had cost so much. They all stood at the edge of victory, but they also understood that Marcus Steele, their leader, needed to face this alone. He boarded a small, sleek fighter ship, the one reserved for high-priority missions. The ship's engines roared to life, and with a single press of a button, it propelled Marcus toward the Council's flagship. As he approached, the gigantic warship loomed like a massive titan in space, a symbol of the Council's arrogance and tyranny. The final battle would not be fought with missiles or AI-driven warships. No, this fight was personal. Marcus was going to confront the person responsible for Eve's death. He would face the Council's leader in a one-on-one battle, and the outcome would decide not only his fate but the future of humanity. As he docked on the Council's flagship, the hatch opened, and he stepped into the cold, metallic interior. His boots echoed against the silence. the sound of his footsteps the only thing he could hear as he made his way to the heart of the flagship. The council's leader was waiting for him, surrounded by the elite guard of robotic enforcers. The leader was a towering figure, dressed in elaborate armor that shimmered with the light of countless stars. The armor was a symbol of his power he had abused for too long. As Marcus approached, the leader spoke, his voice cold and mocking. "So, the great Marcus Steele comes to face me. You think you can defeat me? You think you can avenge that little human girl?" The leader's voice dripped with contempt, as if Marcus were nothing more than a speck of dust in his path. Marcus's jaw tightened. "You killed her," he said, his voice filled with barely contained rage. "And for that, you will pay." Without another word, Marcus lunged forward, engaging the council leader in a fight that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The battle was intense, both combatants using every ounce of their strength and skill. The council leader's armor was nearly impenetrable, but Marcus wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for Eve, for every person who had suffered because of the council's greed and cruelty. The two clashed with the force of a storm, each blow reverberating through the air. Sparks flew as their weapons collided, and the very walls of the flagship seemed to tremble under the intensity of the fight. The council leader fought with arrogance, believing that his superior technology and vast resources made him invincible. But Marcus fought with something far stronger: rage, grief, and the unwavering desire for justice. With every strike, Marcus remembered Eve's face. He remembered the promise he had made to her, the promise to protect her and avenge her death. And with that thought, his resolve hardened. In a final, explosive move, Marcus used his advanced combat training to disarm the council leader. The armor shattered under the force of his strike, and the leader fell to his knees, defeated. Marcus stood over him, panting heavily. His heart raced as he looked down at the leader, the one who had caused so much destruction. The leader's arrogance faded, replaced by fear. He had underestimated humanity, and now he was paying the price. "You've lost," Marcus said, his voice cold but filled with triumph. "Your empire is over." The leader's eyes burned with fury, but he knew it was futile. The tide of battle had already turned. The Galactic Council had been defeated, and their reign of terror was coming to an end. With the leader's surrender, Marcus didn't just secure a military victory. He delivered a message to the galaxy. Humanity was no longer a race to be underestimated. They were a force to be reckoned with, and anyone who crossed them would face the same fate as the Council. The surviving members of the Galactic Council, those who had escaped the devastation, were left with a stark choice. Marcus gave them an ultimatum: join humanity in a new era of peace or face annihilation. There was no middle ground. They could either stand with the humans or become relics of the past. The leaders of the surviving factions, once so sure of their superiority, now found themselves facing the reality of their situation. They had no choice but to surrender. Earth's fleet had proven itself to be a powerful force, and the Council's once untouchable empire was now a shadow of its former self. As Marcus stood in front of the remaining Council leaders, he delivered a speech that would be remembered for centuries to come. It wasn't a speech of vengeance, but of hope. He spoke of justice, of peace, and of the future of the galaxy. "We will not seek revenge," he said, his voice steady but filled with conviction. "We will build a future where no one is oppressed. We will create a galaxy where peace and cooperation reign, where the lessons of the past are learned, and where we honor the memories of those we have lost. Eve, and all those who have suffered, will not have died in vain." With those words, Marcus turned and walked away. The Council's empire had fallen, and a new era was beginning. As Earth's fleet made its way back home, the sense of victory was palpable. The battle was won, but the journey was far from over. Humanity had been tested in ways they had never imagined, and they had emerged stronger, wiser, and united. The fleet's return to Earth was a symbol of that strength, a symbol of the resilience of the human spirit. The camera zoomed out as Earth's fleet entered the planet's atmosphere, a line of majestic ships cutting through the sky. The stars, once so distant, now seemed within reach. The future of humanity was bright, and the galaxy would never forget the lesson they had learned. The humans were no longer the underdogs. They were a force to be reckoned with. And as Marcus Steele looked out at the home he had fought so hard to protect, he knew that the future was theirs to shape. The death of Eve had been the spark, but the future of humanity would be forged in the fires of justice, honor, and unity. Earth was no longer just a tiny, insignificant planet on the edge of the galaxy. It was a beacon of hope for all those who had suffered under the Council's rule. This was only the beginning of humanity's rise. The galaxy would never be the same again.